Hello everybody, welcome to the Boxing Science Podcast. This is episode 69, where it's going to be a Q&A session. I'm going to be answering your questions about a range of different subjects regarding sports science and strength and conditioning in boxing and combat sports. In this week's episode, we've got a range of different questions, including how being explosive in the gym transfers to being explosive knockout puncher in the ring. We're going to be talking about off-season training for amateur boxing, how to adapt your boxing training at home, and also we're going to be looking at some conditioning methods and protocols to be using for off-feet, treadmill and road running as well. I'd like to ask a quick favour, if you're not a subscriber to this YouTube channel yet, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content and you support the growth of the channel. Let's get on with this week's questions. How strong is the correlation between power metrics in the lab/gym compared to knockout percentage for fighters? Are there any outliers, i.e. fighters who don't get high numbers in the gym but have a high KO percentage in the ring, or the other way around? So this is a very interesting question, something I've been trying to answer, been trying to explain to boxers and coaches and strength and conditioning coaches as well. And there isn't no black and white answer here in terms of like the correlation between being explosive in the gym and being explosive in the ring. Maybe that's something that we need to look into ourselves in terms of looking at percentage knockouts compared to the scores that we do in the Boxing Science testing battery. Something that we do correlate is with the landmine punch throw as an estimate of punch force and punching velocity. Correlate this with our other tests such as reactive strength index, counter movement jump height for lower body power, rotational peak strength, and also looking at grip strength as well. And with this, we highlight strengths and areas for improvement to look at how we can get an athlete punching harder. Looking at actually how they produce force in their punch. Do they produce more through rotation, or do they produce more through that lower body force and speed development? People being explosive in the ring or being explosive in the gym, I've never seen anybody that is a big knockout puncher show poor strength and power qualities in the gym. People on the program at the moment, we've got Fabio Wardley, Stephen Cairns, Dan Toward. These have all got high percentage knockout ratios, and they're explosive in the gym. All explosive in different ways. Some develop their strength through lower body speed and power. Some of them do upper body hand speed. Some of them is through rotational strength and power as well. And even like looking back at some of the other fighters that I've trained over the years, Kell Brook and Lee Wood, these were people that I didn't train for that long, but were naturally strong and explosive in the gym. You know, I trained Kell for the Golovkin fight in 2016. He hadn't done strength and conditioning for a couple of years, and he just picked up the movements and the strength and the load really quickly, really explosive through his lower body and jumping, and then he was really dense and strong as well. And you can see them natural qualities start to be unlocked a little bit with training and being exposed to more strength and conditioning. So don't necessarily need to be doing a lot of strength and conditioning to be strong and powerful. He was naturally strong and powerful, as is Lee Wood as well. A boxer that really springs to mind in terms of like that transfer between being strong and powerful in the gym, not necessarily showing it in terms of his knockout percentage record, is Jordan Gill. Jordan, who I trained for 10 years, gone from fighting journeyman all the way through to European title fights, fighting for world title eliminators as well. Within that journey there, Jordan was pound for pound one of the strongest in the gym, hitting some of the highest numbers on his landmine punch throw velocity. Really strong, really powerful. Didn't really show it in his knockout percentage, but he actually showed it in glimpses in his career that he did have that strength and power. You know, he stopped numerous fighters, Ryan Doyle, Gurfey, Michael Conlon, and was known to be quite strong in sparring as well. And sometimes in boxing, there's some influences there that might have an effect on your percentage knockout ratio. Jordan turned professional when he was 18, so he was fighting a lot of men, a lot of journeymen, strong, tough, robust, and fighting quite often as well. He didn't get the stoppage wins there. That affects his knockout record. Maybe some tactics in terms of his fighting style, going for the points win, going more defensive, everything like that. That might have an effect on punching power and percentage record. So this is where the correlations become quite flawed in terms of, is that person a puncher? You know, I've had people that have been in the gym that really surprised me in terms of their speed and power metrics, because I look at what their knockout ratio is, and actually they're a lot stronger than what they are showing. Sometimes you can have athletes that are really strong really powerful, but not be able to get them knockout wins. Maybe an athlete is stronger than they are fast, or maybe even like faster than they are strong. They don't have that kind of like perfect blend between strength and speed. Sometimes core strength, rotational power might be the missing link in terms of their kinetic chain sequencing. And sometimes it's just down to technique. We can get an athlete as strong and as powerful as possible, but it's all about technique. It's all about timing. Timing that perfect punch is a massive factor in terms of being able to punch hard. You look at somebody like Deontay Wilder, who is probably known as one of the biggest punchers in heavyweight history. He weren't just like knocking people out just as soon as they hit him. Sometimes he'd have to wait to time that perfect punch. It shows that technique and timing has a massive influence on an athlete's punching power. So that is obviously trained in the gym. It's trained through experience. At Boxing Science, we can make somebody stronger and more explosive to try and unlock that potential. So when they get that technique and timing right, then they can land that devastating knockout punch. So in summary, I'd say that there is a transfer, but it's not always black and white. It's not always a perfect correlation. We've got athletes that are naturally explosive in the gym as well as being in the ring. Sometimes you get athletes that are naturally explosive but can't transfer that into knockout power. Maybe need to work on their movement skills, their technique and their timing of their punches, or might need to work on a certain strength quality, whether they need to work more on strength or need to work more on speed. Then you do see some athletes that are just like not athletically gifted, not really that explosive, then struggle to have that knockout power in the ring. But yeah, I've never seen anybody is explosive in the ring, getting knockout wins, not show some sort of high level strength and power qualities in the gym. How do you recommend amateur boxers to train strength conditioning during the summer/off season? So this is a key thing for amateur boxers to cover during the off season, because it's a fantastic opportunity to work on them physical qualities to take into the next season. You've got a long period where you've got no competition. So this is a perfect time to work on them areas for improvement that you can't really fit in during the season. I think a key thing would be to work on mobility when training load is brought down in terms of boxing and also the competition. Work on some areas that you need to work on, whether that's getting your shoulders more mobile, working on rotational mobility and stability, hip flexor mobility as well. Just get that body moving as best as you can whilst not trying to adapt around the constraints of high boxing training loads, high conditioning loads, and also high competitive loads as well. But a key thing in terms of strength training, I would be looking to utilize maximum strength training during the off season. Maximum strength training is often underutilized in amateur boxing during the season because you're in a heavy competition schedule and you're constantly having to peak for competition, whether you're boxing every 3 to 4 weeks. For maximum strength training, you need between 4 and 6 weeks to see an adaptation. Doing this during an amateur boxing season can be quite difficult. So using the summer as a perfect opportunity to really stack on them weight loads onto your compound lifts, whether that's a trap bar deadlift, box squat, floor press, and doing some heavy rowing work, whether that's a dumbbell prone row or doing some pull-ups as well. Really, we're focusing on maximum strength. I often say to the amateur boxers that work at Boxing Science is do the summer of strength, really targeting that strength, maximum strength development to then transfer into becoming more explosive within the season, because working strength, speed, power, and speed strength qualities during the season is much easier working on maximum strength during the season. So if you're an amateur boxer looking to work effectively over the summer, over the off season, I say to be using maximum strength as a key goal. In terms of conditioning, I'll be doing the minimum effective dose, not be looking to try and absolutely smash the fitness, because this can have an impact on the maximum strength gains that you have. Amateur boxers can improve their fitness, don't even need to be as fit as professional boxers because they are boxing three-minute rounds. Obviously, we need to be as fit as possible, but we don't need to overdo it. We can get fitness gains within the season through boxing training, through our red zone conditioning, through various conditioning methods that we do at Boxing Science, but I wouldn't be doing right over the off-season. I'm going to try and get as conditioned, as fit as possible, because maximum strength is something that you can't develop within the season as effectively, whereas like fitness can be developed all year round, whether you're in the off-season or whether you're in season. So I'll be looking at really targeting maximum strength, keeping conditioning in there, but not overdoing it, doing the minimum effective dose there. Are there any conditioning sessions that you would use a watt bike / spin bike? If yes, what type of intervals or methods do you use? In terms of cycling for boxing, this can be quite difficult to start implementing. Off-feet conditioning can be really useful for boxing because they've got high amounts of training load. If you're adding high amounts of running loads on top of that, that might lead to an athlete feeling fatigued, feeling sore, affecting their boxing training, or maybe even injured as well. Using off-feet conditioning can be a great tool. However, at Boxing Science, we more lean towards the air bike due to the upper body bias on this. It's obviously predominantly a lower body conditioning tool, but you've also got the upper body to support that. And also we use circuit conditioning as well. The reason why we don't do much watt bike conditioning, boxers aren't as strong or as proficient during the cycling motion, and also they're quite fit as well. So they might have to work very hard to be able to get that physical adaptation. Let's say working in the red zone or working on muscle buffering adaptations. They will get a lot of local muscular fatigue through that lower body, which will limit the physical adaptation that you're targeting. So whether you're targeting a red zone adaptation, trying to get to 90% of maximum heart rate, basically a boxer would have to cycle really hard, put a large amount of effort in to just get up to that red zone there. That can leave them feeling fatigued, feeling sore, and might not even be able to reach that red zone. So really limiting the physical adaptation. So when you're thinking about bang for your buck conditioning tools, it can be quite difficult to do. So even though that we use the watt bike at Boxing Science, you've got to be quite strategic with it. We often house the watt bike in the altitude tent to increase the cardiovascular demands at lower intensities. So in this way, we're increasing the cardiovascular demands. Athlete doesn't have to cycle so hard, and we're targeting them physical adaptations. Obviously, not everybody's got access to an altitude tent, so you've got to be quite mindful in terms of the kind of sessions that you use on the watt bike. We would be looking to do some longer intervals with lower resistance load on there. So maybe doing like 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off, but doing that 4-minute interval, not just at one pace, doing it at a varied intensity level. So maybe like do 1 minute high, 30 seconds low, 1 minute high, 30 seconds low, and so on and so forth. So doing this at longer intervals, but making the intervals vary in terms of intensity. This will help spike the heart rate, but also the lower intervals will give that athlete a little bit of rest through the lower body and limit the amount of lactate that's being produced in that lower body. A good tool to use, the watt bike, but you've got to be quite strategic around it. If you're looking to do some 30-second max out sprints, muscle buffering conditioning, or just like some pyramid conditioning, I'd always go for the air bike over the watt bike. How can I train the Soviet style of boxing from home? So obviously I'm not a boxing coach, strength and conditioning coach, sports scientist, but if I was to give you advice, we're living in a world now where we can access all this information online, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, more access to these training methods than we've ever done in the past, like the Boxing Science React series, where we're looking at the training methods of Dmitry Bivol, of Bertbiev, various fighters, Golovkin, Canelo, Gervonta Davis. We're getting these unique insights into an athlete's training camp. So I've learned so much from studying the champions. The perfect thing for me to advise is to go on YouTube and try and put some stuff in at home. BoxRaw have done actually a really good video series where their CEO has actually gone to Dmitry Bivol's camp, and Bivol is teaching him from a beginner level or novice level on how to do the Soviet style of training. If you're looking to try and learn any kind of training techniques, yeah, I think like YouTube is fantastic to go and study. Like going to Russia might be a little bit extreme to get the Soviet style, but if you're looking to try and pick up different ideas, different training ideologies, I think it's so good to just get yourself different boxing gyms. Like I said, I'm a strength and conditioning coach, not a boxing coach, but I've been around different boxing gyms to try and learn as much as I can about boxing. And that helps me as a strength and conditioning coach have a better understanding of the sport, of the individual, what's required going into a fight. From a general point of view, I'm getting a world-class insight into what it takes for successful performance in boxing. That helps me be a better strength and conditioning coach. But I also take that approach in terms of when I was a younger S&C coach, working in football, working in golf, always look to try and shadow the technical coaches and the strength and conditioning coaches there to try and pick up as many ideas and as much experience from them as possible. My advice to you is not only go and research on YouTube and start trying to implement that into your own training, but also to get yourself out there to different gyms. Like I said, not particularly just to go and do the Soviet styles at home straight away, but to try and pick up as many kind of training tools and tips and strategies that you can help yourself become a better athlete, a better fighter, or maybe even a better coach. Doing 30-second maximum sprints on the air bike feels too heavy. What other variations can be done? The 30-second max out sprint is something that we've been implementing at Boxing Science since we started back in 2014. And we've used various different methods. We've used the curve treadmill, we've used the prowler, we've used the watt bike, we've even used some outdoor sprints as well. And we found that the best way to get the best adaptation is actually using the air bike. Predominantly did this on the curve. We had some athletes do these 30-second sprints and get themselves in some really sticky situations. We call it the death zone, where they're in a very dark place after it. The lactates are hitting above 20 millimole per litre. But we found that the drop off in terms of speed and power endurance quite significant over 4 reps. However, on the air bike, we found that peak power and average power was maintained across 4 reps a lot better, whilst also stimulating higher blood lactate levels. This is an indication of that the air bike is giving you a better option to get that physical adaptation, because we're wanting to stimulate them cell signaling pathways for mitochondrial biogenesis, and this will in turn help improve aerobic capacity. But also it's the safest way as well, because when running on the curve, sometimes running technique can limit them high speed, high force outputs, but also doing this under fatigue can end up leaving an athlete feeling sore, or maybe like it's an injury risk as well. Sometimes when I've done it on the track, for example, we saw some athletes like pull up with some hamstring strains or cramping in the hamstrings. This is something to try and avoid. I probably wouldn't do the 30-second max out sprints on a flat surface. So the air bike is the best option to use. Now you're saying that it's too heavy. It's heavy for a reason. It's feeling quite hard for a reason. It's because it's the hardest but most effective way to do it. I've seen a big difference in an athlete's score and also their physical responses through using different air bikes. At Boxing Science, we've got the air bike by Assault Fitness, and we find that this is the most robust air bike on the market. We have different athletes that use different brands of air bikes. The responses are very different as well. You've got to be thinking about what kind of air bike are you using? Is there too much resistance on there? Is it an older air bike, like a cheaper model? This can really affect your response doing these 30-second sprints. Your response in the short term, but also the adaptations that are going to be occurring as well. So I'm very particular in terms of like when I put in 30-second sprints into our online plans to make sure an athlete is appropriately set up on the right air bike so they can get the right responses. If they're not, if they haven't got access to an air bike, I wouldn't put the 30-second sprints in, because like I said, you can end up wasting your time and energy and not get the fitness adaptations if the air bike is wrong. So that's tip number 1. But if you still, let's say on the Assault Fitness air bike, you still find it quite heavy to do, maybe try and use the curve or the prowler. We like hill sprints as well, but it's about finding a hill steep enough and also long enough to be able to get them 30-second sprints. The last option would be to use a watt bike, and then doing outdoor sprints on a flat surface and on the track probably would be avoided. So the last question is running on a treadmill versus outdoor running. What are the benefits and positives or negatives of each one? So when comparing the treadmill to outdoor running, we'd always side with running on the treadmill, whether that's a non-motorized treadmill such as Curve or the Assault Runner, or a motorized treadmill where you can fix the intensity. The reason why is because we can fix the intensity and also monitor the intensity, so we can really target them physical adaptations, whether that's looking at heart rate, trying to get above 90% maximum heart rate, going towards red zone adaptations, or looking at blood lactate levels, looking at muscle buffering conditioning. When running outside, we have a natural pacing strategies where we might start hard, drop off in the middle, and then finish hard at the end. Sometimes concentration, focus. If you're running out on the roads, something might get in the way, or a hill might come up or anything like that. And this really affects that controlled intensity. Let's say you're running outside, you hit a hill, increase lactate response, that'll reduce your running speed, which will affect that time in the red zone. You've got to be really strategic in terms of your running condition, especially for boxing. Boxers are very aerobically fit. They need to be challenged in a certain way. And also you have very individualized responses. Some athletes are built for endurance. Some athletes are more anaerobic focused as well. Running on the treadmill to really fix the time, the intensity. So we're targeting them physical responses. We're not having any guesswork when we're on the treadmill rather than running outside, where it's really hard to monitor running speed and also hard to control that when actually performing the reps. Okay guys, so that's the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching or listening to the podcast. If you're a keen follower of Boxing Science but not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button so don't miss out on any future content, and also support the growth of the channel so we can bring you even bigger and better content in the near future. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next episode of the Boxing Science Podcast.